Now let us discuss about plant succession. A plant community is a dynamic system. The population and the habitat constantly interact with each other, leading to the changes in the habitat. The changed habitat is not favorable for the stabilization of existing populations. New populations migrate into the changed habitat and colonize. The constant interaction between populations and habitat leads to the development of advanced communities. This process continues till a stable or climax community emerges. Thus, the same area is occupied by different plant communities at different times. So here, this is the definition of plant succession. The successive colonization of the same area by different plant communities at different times, leading to the emergence of stable or climax community, is called plant succession. Now, causes of plant succession. Plant succession occurs due to climatic, topographic, or biotic factors. So these are concept of climatic communities. What are they? They are monoclimatic theory, polyclimax theory with regard to the number of climax communities in a given habitat. These are the habitats, which are monoclimax theory and polyclimax theory. Now we discuss about the primary and secondary plant succession. The primary and secondary plant succession may be of the Hydrosere, Haloceres, Xeroceres. What is meant by Hydrosere? The plant succession that begins on wet area is called Hydrosere. Halocere means the plant succession that begins on saline area is called Halocere. Xerocere means the plant succession that begins that area, dry area, is called Xeroceres. Now, today we discuss about in detail Hydrosere. Hydrosere is the succession occurring on aquatic habitat or wet habitat. It takes place on standing water or in running water. It is best observed in ponds, pools, or lakes. In these various stages form distinct zones around water. There are about 7 stages in Hydroceres. They are phytoplankton stage, rooted, submerged stage, rooted floating stage, reed swamp stage, sedge meadow stage, woodland stage, and finally forest or climax stage. Now we discuss about in detail each one. First, phytoplankton stage. So, phytoplankton stage, when the depth of water is beyond 20 feet, no vegetation is seen in this phytoplankton stage. When the depth is about 15 feet, microscopic plants and bacteria enter the pond. The bacteria, blue-green algae, green algae, diatoms, etc. represents the phytoplankton of pond. They constitute the pioneer community. They grow vigorously. When they die, their remnants sink to the bottom of pond. The soil particles are also carried to the bottom of the pond by rainwater. These changes in the habitat results a decrease in depth of the pond. The changed habitat is more suited to the submerged plants. Now another stage, that is to be submerged stage. When the depth of water in a pond is about 10 feet, submerged plants like Vallisneria, Hydrilla, Cara, Utricularia, etc. invade the pond and establish the submerged plant community. This community is the first macroscopic community, so ecologists consider this community as pioneer community. The death and decay of this community results in the formation of humus at the bottom of the pond. Slitting also occurs in this. These processes decreases the depth of water and make the bottom of the pond unfavorable for submerged plants. The changed habitat is now invaded by floating plants. Now we discuss about another stage, that is to be floating stage. When the depth of water is 5 to 8 feet, the floating plants like Nymphia, Ecornia, Pistia, Potamogeton, Polygonum, etc. invade the pond and stables. These plants root at the bottom and have stems or broad leaves which rise to the top of water. The broad leaves floating on the surface of water check the penetration of light into the pond. This causes the death of submerged plants. In course of time, the death and decay of floating plants results in the formation of humus at the bottom of the pond. Soil is deposited. These reactions result in the decreases of water depth. The changed habitat is unfavorable for the floating of plants and is favorable for reed swamp plants which invade the pond. Now another stage, reed swamp stage. Here in this, the depth of water is 2 to 4 feet. Reed swamp plants like Typha, Phragmites, Rumex, Eclipta, Sagittaria, etc. invade the region and stabilize. These plants root at the bottom and partially submerged, and foliage is raised above the water level, that is called as amphibious. The foliage of reeds forms a cover over floating plants and check the penetration of light. As a result, the floating plants cannot survive. The death and decay of reed swamps results in the formation of humus at the bottom of pond. Soil is deposited. As a result, the water level is decreased. The changed habitat is not favorable for reeds but favorable for to sedges which invade the pond. Now let us discuss about another stage, that is to be sedge, meadow or marshy stage. When the depth of water is few inches, sedges like carex, Iliocaris, mentha, iris, etc. invade the pond and stabilize. These plants have tough, tangled rhizomes and slender roots. They absorb and transpire a large quantity of water. Humus is formed due to the death and decay of water. Humus is formed due to the death and decay of reeds. Soil is deposited in this stage. Consequently, a dry habitat is result. The changed habitat is unit for the growth of reeds or normal hydrophytes. It is invaded by hydrophytic shrubs. Now let us discuss about another stage, that is to be woodland stage. Here in this, the substratum is dry most of the year and waterlogged in rainy season. Some hydrophytic shrubs like salix, cornus, etc. invade the region and stabilize. The shrubs react with the habitat by producing shade and by decreasing the water content of the soil through vigorous transpiration. Shade-loving herbs may be entered now. In this stage, large amount of humus and soil microorganisms accumulate in the soil. The changes in the habitat causes the invasion by trees. Now the last stage, which is to be climax stage or forest stage. When the soil level is raised much above the water level by accumulation of humus and soil particles, and when the habitat becomes more dry and well aerated, woody mesophytic trees invade the region and stabilize into climax vegetation. The vegetation develops into a mesophytic forest. So here trees are dominant in this community and have control over the entire vegetation. Shade-loving plants invade the region and stabilize as subdominant species. Bacteria, fungi and other soil organisms grow vigorously and make the soil rich in organic materials. Thus, after a very long time, the area once covered by deep water is changed into a dense forest. The process is very slow, continuously and gradually changing to climax. It may take thousands of years to reach the climax community. The process cannot be observed in nature, but several stages of the process can be observed from deep water towards the shallower margin.